Hey folks, Captain Mikey here, Sawgrass Fishing Charters out in the beautiful Florida Everglades. Guys, it's the middle of summer and it is hot, hot, hot. And to me that means one thing, soft plastics. It's summertime soft plastics. Now when it's hot like this, it can be a little difficult to get that big bite out there. You may not see the big numbers that you normally see out in the Everglades. It's not uncommon to have 100 to 200 fish days. But not so much in the middle of summer like that. It's hot, the water's hot, and the fish are cold-blooded, so they're going to slow down a little bit. They're going to try to conserve that energy that they have, and they're going to try to focus in on a big meal. One big meal rather than chasing down a whole bunch of little ones. So that's why I have my golden rule of in the middle of the summer, go big or go home. Fish soft plastics and big heavy soft plastics. I'm talking soft plastics like 10 inch, 12 inch, 14 inch, even 16 inch worms. Big heavy bodied creature baits, big thick 5 inch crawfish, things along those lines. And when you're unsure of exactly where these fish are going to be, they're either going to be buried deep into underneath cover or they're going to try to find the deepest holes that they can. You need to, it can be a little intimidating by having to switch up lures all the time. So you need to have one style that can suit all those different needs. And that's why a soft plastic is so crucial in the middle of summer like this. Because there's thousands of varieties of soft plastics. From worms to creature baits to crawfish to swim baits to jerk baits, you name it. They have a soft plastic in every shape, size there is out there, as well as a wide variety of colors. So when you have so many different options, what's the best way to fish them? How do you start? Where do you start? Well, I'll tell you, the way I go about it is a Texas rig with a bullet weight sinker on it. That's absolutely the best. You can rig it weedlessly, you can pitch it into the cover, you can pitch it nice and far because of the extra weight on there. You can let it sink, work things along the bottom, you can reel it in a little faster, work it across the top. A Texas rig is a deadly, deadly method of fishing soft plastics. And it's my go-to in the middle of the summer like this, because there is so many different ways you can do it. A Texas rig actually is simply a hook that looks very similar to this. Now this is an extra wide gap hook. This is about a 4/0, and this is the style and size of hook I like to use in the middle of summer, anywhere from a 4/0 to a 5/0. It gives it that extra body to go through just about any kind of soft plastic that you have, and it's got that small keeper section on it that's going to hold on to that. As well as you see, the keeper and the point of the hook are in line here, so you can bury it into the soft plastic, make it weedless out there. Now that's the hook, and truthfully, technically, tying a hook on to a line, one of these is Texas rig. That's what it is. Texas rig doesn't actually involve a weight. That's adding a weight to a Texas rig, and that's something else. I like to use a bullet nose sinker out there, and they're going to come in a variety of sizes. But when you're trying to cover a whole range of different soft plastics and different areas that you're going to target in on or whatnot, it's better to not go too heavy. Just enough weight that can get you to the bottom if you want to go to the bottom out there. I recommend going no bigger than maybe a 1/4 ounce. A 1/4 ounce is about the heaviest that I'll usually throw. They do make them quite a bit larger. The only time you should ever need to go bigger than a 1/4 ounce is if you're dealing with extreme currents, extreme depths, or you're trying to punch through heavy cover like mats or heavy lily pad beds, things like that along those lines. A bullet nose sinker is simply that. It's shaped just like a little bullet. It's got a hole that goes right through it, and on the very back end is actually concaved. So it actually fits the nose of just about any soft plastic that's there. Now, you always got to, when you tie a Texas rig with a bullet nose sinker, go ahead and put your bullet nose on first, of course, naturally, and you want the point of it facing towards the tip of the rod, okay? Towards the tip of the rod, just like I've got already rigged up here. By the time you got it actually already rigged up, guys, this is what you're going to be looking at. We get it. So there we go. So that's your Texas rig. That's a 4/0 or size 4/0 extra wide gap owner hook, and you got your bullet nose sinker on it. Now it's free to slide. And I like that because it gives me a little more variety of options to do. When I cast it out, the weight will usually come ahead, it'll sink into the water, pulling that soft plastic down behind it before they connect when you start reeling it back in. But you can peg them as well. Get yourself some bobber stops, something like this. You slip those on the line just ahead of the first before they put the bullet nose sinker on there, and that's going to peg it in place. There are also other pegs out there that you can actually slide inside the sinker, which kind of traps it there. If you do go with that method, guys, buy some of the plastic ones. Do not use a toothpick. I've heard guys say they use toothpicks. Toothpicks are made out of wood. They're actually going to chip up and fray your line pretty easily there. But they're in the water, what most people don't realize, it's wood. It'll absorb that water and it's going to swell up. And that's going to give you an extra chance of popping off. And that always happens when you least want it, when you got that big lunker on the line there. But generally, 90% of the time, I let it free flow. I just let it go so that way it can slide up and down. Now, as I said, when you're Texas rigging, there's so many varieties that you can use on a Texas rig out there. Today, most of my success came out of a big 10-inch worm. Actually, this worm right here. This is a PowerTeam Lures ribbon hinge worm, 10-inch ribbon hinge. All right, and it's similar to a ribbon tail worm, although it's much thicker. And if you see, it's got all those different grooves built into it, so it does give it that ribbon tail hinge, but it also is more like a trick worm on it because it's got that bulbous end on the end there. Fantastic worm. I actually caught a 6-pounder out today. You'll probably see that in the video a little bit later. Just on this one here, and I must have caught about 20 other ones, all between 1 and 2 pounds, somewhere in that range. But a 10-inch big chunky worm in the middle of summer is deadly, absolutely deadly. And if you're really not unsure, because there's a whole bunch of varieties, check out PowerTeam Lures ribbon hinge. That's a fantastic worm right there. All right. Now, I mean, that's worms. But another way you can Texas rig, another thing you can Texas rig is something like a lizard. All right. Now, this is PowerTeam's Lures 6-inch gator, they call this. This is a nice lizard. It has that ribbon tail to it, but they even throw a couple little extra things on it. If you notice, it's really hard to see, but on that tail, it's got little ribbons, little bars on it that stick out on opposite sides all the way down it, giving that extra action in there, as well as the same as on the legs. That's a deadly little lizard there, PowerTeam Lures gator, they call it. But that's, again, that's another method, another soft plastic they can use. It's got a nice thick body on it. That's what I like in summertime. Here in South Florida, there is lizards everywhere, so this is a natural food source for these big bass. So a lizard's always a good choice. You can work it a little faster through the lily pads, through the weeds, or crawl it along the bottom just like you would with that 10-inch worm out there. And of course, other styles of worms can be used with a Texas rig. This is a 7-inch tickler, they call it. It's just a little bit more of a trick worm. There's not a lot to it. It's got a lot of great action on there, but that'll get the attention of those bass really well out there. In the summertime, as I said, you want to go big, you want to go heavy, you want to go thick, and you want to move it a little bit slower. Those bass are going to try to hold up on all that energy and harness it for that one big meal rather than chasing down everything else out there. But that's the worm styles, isn't it? That's one thing you could definitely utilize on there too. But a lot of the Texas rigs work best with things like creature baits and crawfish, and that's where you see most people doing that out there. A creature bait is something that you can't quite say, well, I'm not sure what it is, if it's a crawfish or if it's a bug, or you're not really sure what it is. Something like this. This is actually called a bully devil from PowerTeam Lures. It's a 4-inch bait. It's got a nice big thick body on it, so you can actually bury that hook in there a little bit better. It'll protect it a little more weedless, and it's fairly streamlined, not a lot of dangly things. So this works really well in the lily pads, in the heavier brush, things like that, because it's not going to get caught up with all the extra strings on it or whatever. Fantastic lure. I actually got a few of them on it earlier this morning out there. But a creature bait is something similar to that. Deadly on a Texas rig with a bullet nose sinker. And of course, probably the most common way, most common thing other than a worm that's thrown on a Texas rig is definitely your crawfish style lures. But I'm talking summertime right now, and I'm talking big lures, so I go big. You go big or go home. So that would be something like the Conviction Craw. Conviction Craw, something like this. This is a big 4.5 inch, 4.8 inch actually, crayfish here. Got fantastically large claws on it, couple extra little flappers, great body shape to it. This works great whether you're punching through mats, whether you're punching through lily pads, dragging it through the grass, or just hopping it along rocks on the bottom. Again, that's another advantage to a Texas rig. There's so many ways you can use it, and so many lures. This one's got a really thick, robust profile. This, again, PowerTeam Lures, Conviction Craw. They even throw a little extra body on it, a little piece on the body there to bury that hook, or what they like to call text point that hook. That'll bury just the tip of that hook in there, make it extra weedless on there. So the crawfish styles work well. Now, one thing that I don't see a lot of people doing, and it's something that it's absolutely deadly out here anyway, is fishing with tubes. Tubes, you see a lot more up north, especially smallmouth fishermen, things like that, will use tubes. Well, PowerTeam Lures makes a fantastic tube here. It's called the food chain tube. The food chain tube is not just your normal tube. This is the larger version of it. It's got all the strings like a tube. It's hollow in the middle, of course, so you can bury a weight inside of it. But it's also got these big, large extra flappers. But one thing very unique about this tube jig in particular is the first 1/4 inch of it is actually solid plastic, the whole top of it. That makes it perfectly suitable for Texas rigging like this. Because when you Texas rig, you're going to bury that hook about 1/4 inch and pop it out and then run it around and bring it back through on the other side. A Texas rig, that's a Texas rig too. Simple, easy, deadly method out there. When I'm fishing tubes like this, I actually like to peg the weight about 3 or 4 inches in front of the lure. That's because this is a hollow lure, a hollow body lure, or whatever. The weight will come down and it'll still leave that little bit of line that's going to allow that lure to dance and float up a little bit, just like a hollow body tube should do out there. Well, folks, I hope you learned a little something from this video today. Just remember, in the middle of summer, when it's hot, hot, hot like this, and that bass bite isn't as strong as it usually is, don't give up. They're still there. You just got to work a little harder and go big or go home. That's the way. So go ahead, get yourself some extra wide gap hooks, 4/0 or 5/0. Get some bullet nose sinkers, about a quarter ounce, no heavier than that out there, and a whole bunch of heavy soft plastics. Big 10-inch worms, big crayfish, big thick body creature baits, big tube jigs. It doesn't matter. You see the theme here. Go big. Go big, and I promise you'll get the big bite. That's just the way it is there. Texas rig it. You're going to love it. You're going to have a much better day out there. I do promise you that, guys. Well, if you like this video, go ahead, give it a thumbs up, like the video, and subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. If you are, stay subscribed, guys, because there's so much more coming. I appreciate everything that you guys do, all the comments that you make. I'm still trying to make all the videos that you guys have commented on, but there's so much more coming in Sawgrass Bass in the future here, guys. As I always say, Captain Mikey signing out. The future is bright. You keep those lines tight.